beautiful ladies and gentlemen. How are you feeling today? I am over the moon. I am over the moon. I've got a beautiful soul of a diamond to come and tell her story. I am so excited. I want to say I am so excited. I cannot hide it. I'm sitting down, so it feels funny to start moving, but I'm moving. My beautiful diamond beauties, just want to let you know that this is a recording, but I will be live on the session on Thursday. So if you do give us comments or love, I will, while the recording is running, I will bring in your comments and show your comments, but I will not do a shout out. Like the soul of a diamond, Gabby is going to come and tell her story, and I want to have her not interrupted so that she can have the flow of her story. So, my beautiful Gabby, I am so excited for you to be here. Please, can you introduce yourself and tell us also where you're from?
Yes, hi Sone. Thank you for having me. I'm Gabi Varga, the trauma-informed personal trainer, and I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, but originally from Hungary. As you'll hear my story, you'll know the whole thing, how this happened.
Oh, wow. That is beautiful. And can you tell me, how are you serving and making the world a better place?
Yeah, I through my own story that as a trauma-informed personal trainer and my own trig- uh, triggers and hardships, I help women to feel seen, heard, and use movement as a healing way to feel better and and have a better life.
I love it. And you are also the Diamond Beauties movement guru, expert. So I just want to say thank you so much for all your beautiful posts, your videos that you are doing for the Diamond Beauties. You are such an inspiration. My beautiful Gabby, we did a video because a few weeks ago you were sponsoring my show. But I did some changes. I also put some new green sparkles at the back. And then I changed the ending for the banner for the magazine. So are you ready for my gift to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we go.
Hi everyone, this is Gabby, the Trauma Informed Personal Trainer. You can find me at thetraumainformedpt.com. I create safe space for mindful women where they feel seen and heard through the power of slowing down and embracing the joy of movement. I guide them on a journey of healing and self-love. And this is one of my favorite tools, the foam roller, that I use quite often with clients. And if you're interested in working with me or learning more about trauma-informed approach in the fitness space, please visit my website, thetraumainformedpt.com. I love to connect with you.
What did you think, my beautiful one?
I love it. Every time you create something, I just love it. Because I
Oh,
feel
thank
so special. You make me feel special and everyone else too.
you. Thank you, thank you. I use especially the colors for Soul of a Diamond, and I should have changed our orange one here because I did change the canvas. But I think we were talking we were talking before the recording, and I didn't change it. So give me 1 second. There you are. How fast is that? Oh, wow. So, my beautiful Gabby, I'm truly honored that you have sent me your story. Your story was so beautiful. And I can understand why you have your purpose is to let others be seen and be heard. It's beautiful. So you can start with your story anytime, any place, and just continue and let us see how far we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh, let us go,
Whew.
my beautiful one.
Um, it's it's hard to go with the timeline as I wrote about it, but let's see how it unfolds. Um, and my personality is going to come through like, oh, she goes here, she goes there, and then at the end we'll just come back to where I am right now.
And that's perfectly because
Right.
this is your session. I'm gonna to bring you a little bit closer like this, and I'm gonna
I love that.
and I'm gonna put you even more closer, and then I will take us back again. So yeah, so that the people don't think we're boring. We can do close-ups or not. So anywhere you want to start, my beautiful one, you are
Absolutely.
welcome to start.
So I was born in Hungary, the socialist Hungary in 1984, and in a very hardworking middle class family, which is a very typical thing it was in Hungary at that time, because socialism really created equality among people. No one had too much, no one had too little. Obviously, there were extremes, but everyone was working, everyone did something to keep put food on the table, and I never really felt that we didn't have enough to eat. The fridge was always full. At the same time, my family was coming from a lack of mentality. We talked a lot about once we win the lotto, putting terms on happiness, putting terms on our wealth, instead of looking at it that we are all already wealthy. We have food on the table, we have a beautiful home, we have clothes, we are getting educated. But I like to think that was the the problem of the system, rather than my family was just doing what everyone had been doing at that point. And that brings me to the autopilot mode that was very much present in that time. There was no such a thing as growth mindset or mindfulness per se back then. It was more about, like, go work hard, bring money home, save a little, go on a vacation once a year, and do the same thing every year, every time. And it created a lot of safety. At the same time, we didn't really know there was another way to live. And my parents are lovely. They provided as much as they could, with the tools that they had. I have an older brother, he's 4 years older. And I never thought a lot or much about how I was growing up until a couple of years ago, that, oh my goodness, this is like, I've gone through a lot of trauma. And, it brings me back to my own work, that being trauma informed, I'm helping people to see that there's another way to live. There's a different way of approaching fitness or life in general. So when I was going to elementary school, it was, where should I continue? I went to music grade, which was the most elite grade in my school. So we studied music, we played instruments, we sang in a choir, and I loved being with people. And I didn't care about singing. It was just being with people and, hanging out. And I remember in fourth grade, I wasn't selected for choir. And I felt so left out. And, thinking now, I'm like, oh my God, I have free time. I don't have to go to choir. But back then, that was, oh, I'm not good enough. And that was that's been a theme for my whole life, that, not being good enough or being too much. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are watching, listening to this recording can relate to it. And the other big piece in elementary school that didn't occur at that time, that I had issues with studying. I couldn't focus. I didn't have capacity to sit still. And I had a huge block studying mathematics, especially with my mom. It was very, very traumatic. And that's where a lot of my trauma stems from. When you have to sit and study while nothing is working up here. And I was forced to try learning the same way, which clearly wasn't working. But, my mom did her best. She didn't know better that, there are other ways to make her daughter learn better. Later on in high school, she sent me to a math teacher, and it made a huge difference. So that was a time like, okay, I'm gonna pay for this. But it was very traumatic because it really reinforced my trauma response, the freeze trauma response that has been my go-to, that you're not able to get out of the situation. And it's hard on the body, because you learn that you need to sit, and you're not able to, fight or flight, fight back or run away, which is like a very, very early instinct of our, society, or back in the days when we had to run away from the tiger per se. So that was another piece. And elementary school was quite easy on the other side because of the music element. I got to hang out with great people, singing, releasing endorphins and all that. It was great. It felt a safe place. But at the same time, we learned judgment, so much judgment. If someone was different from us, we judged them. We made them feel an outsider. And I think that's a lot to do with socialism, and not, we didn't know how to be with other people who had issues that we couldn't relate to. Mind you, later on it turned out I had a lot of those issues. I wasn't aware of that. And so I was a very loud kid / very quiet kid. So the duality was very much present in my life. And, when I was too much, I had to shrink myself. When I wasn't enough, I had to be outgoing. So it was, how do we learn to be safe within when the outside world doesn't reflect back, right? Mm-hmm. And after I managed to get through all elementary school, and the Hungarian school system is different from what other school systems are in the world. After elementary school, after grade 8, we switched schools. So I went to an economic school, where I studied economics, and I had to travel to Budapest, the capital city, which is, an hour away from my hometown. So I got out of the little bubble and into the big world, even though it wasn't far. And I became bullied. I got bullied at a very, right off the bat, because I was loud and I was outspoken. And I expressed that I liked the guy from a higher grade. And the whole 4 years was just a nightmare. And, not being accepted. I didn't see the choice of being able to go to a different school. I thought I had to just push it through and put up with it. There were a lot of mental, emotional abuse from the bullies. And I wasn't the only one who got bullied. It was, and interestingly enough, the bullies still don't recognize what they did to us. And I learned a lot through that, but only as an older grown up, reflecting back on what happened. But it also, again, it reinforced my freeze response, that I've been always a very, I shut down when someone fires comments at me. And some people are so good at just, give it back to them and be very, how can I say, be snappy, very smart in the moment. I didn't know how to handle that. I just shut down and pretend that I was okay, even though my body, it was a war inside of me. And at the same time, I became very good friends with a girl in my grade, and we stayed friends for until recently. But I'll get back to that. And so a lot of shutdown happened in high school, and I had the same issue with mathematics, physics, chemistry, those subjects where I really had to use my brain in a creative way, per se. I had a hard time studying, and it was easier for me to study history or anything. I just read it, I memorize it, and I just have to give it back as it is. But I was a huge cheater in high school because I didn't have the capacity to remember things. So it was easier for me to just write cheat sheets for hours and go through the discomfort of having the possibility of being caught than sitting and studying at home. And it's very interesting that, I didn't think much of it, but it's very taxing on the body that, what if we get caught? Because I'm a very honest person on the other hand, but it's an interesting layer to this onion. And I got through high school. I really did. And it wasn't, I didn't feel the lightness all of a sudden when it was over, but it was definitely easier for me. And I stayed another year. I studied a profession, and technically I just became a secretary. That's what I could have become, but I never used that profession. And I got involved with dance. I always wanted to dance. And, this is where the love for music came in, because I always had good sense of rhythm. I have a terrible voice, so I'm not surprised that I wasn't selected for choir one year. But I love dancing. I loved all the music videos, so I started dancing. Finally, I had the autonomy and the money and do whatever I wanted to do because apparently I didn't have the I had a huge fear of going up to my mom and say, "Hey, find me something," right? Even though I'm pretty sure she would have. And after dancing, it's my dance teacher got me into group fitness, and I signed up for my group fitness instructor certification to be completed. And that's when things started to turn because that was the first school I picked for myself. I wanted to do it and I paid for it. I was doing like student jobs on the side, and that was the first time that I felt I belonged somewhere. Because even though I didn't know much about group fitness, like aerobics, but I loved dancing. I had a good sense of rhythm. I That was the closest that I could find that okay, these people get me. And it was hard. My my teacher picked on me, but I know later on, years later, I asked like, "Hey, did you pick on me because you saw my potential?" And he said yes. So I wasn't mad at him at all. He was wonderful, and so that was a year of studying and becoming a group fitness instructor. So at age of 20, I started earning my own money, and at that time I was living with my then boyfriend who was 9 years older. So if you think about it, a 20-year-old living with a 29-year-old, that's a stretch. And my family needed some time to be on terms with it. But I loved teaching. I became really good at it. And at the same time, I I kept dancing even though I switched and I started dancing hip hop. I got involved with the cool kids, and I love dancing because I could use a lot of that material in my group classes, the choreography based group classes, which was really really popular in the early 2000s in Europe. That's like conventions, fitness conventions. We would go and have fun, dance, step aerobics, all like music pumping, knowing the whole industries, like all people showed up on the weekends and we would just learn and socialize. And at the same time, I found myself cheating on my then boyfriend, and I did it many times, and I never got caught. But looking back, something was missing on my end. It had nothing to do with him. He was a very nice guy, but the validation that I couldn't give to myself, I was looking for it in the outside world from other people. And it's very, very sad because back then I wasn't aware of my own values, even though I brought great values from my parents. But, intergenerational trauma and all those deeper layers that I didn't understand at that time was still affecting me. And I acted out. I The excitement that getting to know someone else. And sadly, my then boyfriend trusted me. And at at the end, how he ended was I ended up admitting that I cheated on him, and the last person who I did it with, and that was it. So 5 years of relationship. But I had fitness. I bounced back, no problem, because I had other things to care about. And soon after, I met my husband, who became my husband later. This Hungarian Canadian guy was visiting his family back in Hungary, and he was my then roommate's cousin, and he stayed in with us in the home I was living in, and he was different. He was confident, or I thought he was. Let's put that way. He was. I saw his potential, like his persona, his how he showed up. He seemed so. He knows what he's doing. He was going to university in Montreal, and at the same time, he was smoking a lot. So now looking back, I would never be with someone who smoked, and at the same time, that was a coping mechanism for him to, okay, I'm cool, I'm smoking, but I'm nervous as hell because here's this woman who's making her own money, and I didn't look at myself that way, but I know he wanted to show himself in a better light. Let's put that way. And after he moved back home, sorry, not moved, but he traveled back home. We started a distant relationship, and he came to visit me a couple of times. Obviously, oh my God, this is amazing. So many highs and lows, being in touch by emails, texts. Back then there was no video call, there's no smartphone and such. And it was, he managed to get into an exchange program in Budapest, and we started living together, and I already saw red flags, but I gladly ignored them because I wanted to believe this is it. A lot of us want to believe it, and we ignore our own bodily signals, our own intuition that this is not right. And the little things started. I saw the little things, but I let it slip. And by then, I was really tired of working hard and not having a sense of direction. And that has been my theme throughout my whole life, that not knowing where I was heading. Because at an early age, I got the sense that dreaming big or having a goal is not a good thing, or at least that was my interpretation. Like, oh, don't be this, don't be that, don't dream of this, don't dream of that. Mind you, the lotto situation was there, that once we win the lotto. So again, putting terms on our happiness, right? Rather than thinking, okay, I'm working hard, I'm going to get a home, I'm going to do this with that money. And so I got really burnt out by working hard. And now I know that actually it might have not been only my job but also that it was a very taxing relationship. I just didn't know it at that time yet. And it came handy that we went back to Montreal together in the middle of winter 2009. And so that was the plan. Okay, Gabby's going to come out, check out Montreal and see what comes out of it. And I didn't plan staying. It was cold. My English was very, very little, even though I always studied English in my whole life. But again, remember, lots of cheating. I wasn't pushed to actually really study English. And so while he was finishing university, I went to a language school. I don't speak French at all, so my go-to was learning English. And it was hard. It was the culture shock, the really cold weather, not living in my soon father-in-law's basement. It was a very hard thing to do. And I could stay for 6 months. We came back to visit my family in summer, and I ended up coming back to Canada. But I was telling my friends back home when I saw them, like, I don't want to go back. I don't like it. And I didn't even see the option that, well, I'm not going back, because I loved this person. And the very same year we got married, because it helped my application process to the first step is to become a permanent resident, and years later I could apply for my citizenship. But the first step was to get my papers to become a permanent resident. And the next 13 months was so hard, because I couldn't work, because my identity was, I was the group fitness instructor, and I lost that identity. Yes. However, I could start working as a volunteer at the local YMCA. My ex-husband, then husband, hooked me up with someone, and I started teaching classes for free. But I could use the facility. I could network, and there was no intentionality behind it. I was just doing what I love doing. I met a lot of amazing people, some Hungarians, and once people started to approach that, hey, come sub my class, I'm gonna give you cash, or these little things. And by the time I got my papers, I had work lined up for me, because a lot of people knew me in Montreal at that time. So it was so interesting how everything just fell into place without me being intentional about it. But I love doing it. So, but this time the plateau, the burnout started to come sooner. When I left Hungary for Montreal, I felt so burnt out. They started to catch up again. And all I could think of that, well, it must be my work. At the same time, now looking back, I know that might have been one piece of it, but a big part of it was a trauma-bonded relationship with my then husband. That I wasn't valued. I didn't feel enough. There was a lot of drama. I did my best, but I didn't have the I wouldn't call personality. I didn't have that presence that, hey, I'm not putting up with this. because I was in a very uncomfortable situation that for a long time, I had no money. I had no bank account. I couldn't just get on a plane and go home because I didn't want to do this anymore. But I didn't want to do this anymore because it became really obvious that my then boyfriend had issues with explicit content on the internet. And once I learned it, I was like, oh my God, this is not good. And he made me feel that, oh, this is just how it is. And I had to be okay with it because I wasn't aware of my values. I didn't know that, okay, this is not how I imagine my life. But, I'm dependent on this person because I moved for him.
Yes.
But that was just a feeling. I didn't have the words that I have now, just, hey, what you're doing to me is not okay. I couldn't put it into words that how I felt, what the emotions were happening. And so again, it came handy in 2012 when I was really hitting the wall that he got a new job in Vancouver. And we moved to Vancouver. And again, I started all over. And that was a time I didn't have the capacity and the time to build up my Grow Fitness career. And I could see that the West Coast had a very different market when it comes to Grow Fitness classes. And I wasn't, my personality, the style, how I was teaching in Hungary and in Montreal wasn't really syncing with the culture here. And again, my then husband hooked me up with a personal training job. So I'm really grateful of these hookups. But at the end of the day, I made the most out of them, right? So he offered some help, and then I made the most out of the opportunity. And that was a time when I started working as a personal trainer. And I absolutely hated it. I hated it.
You said it with such a big smile. I thought, okay.
Because, at that point, I had been a fitness trainer for 8 years, and I felt robbed because the hourly wage I was offered, it was very, very minimal. And when I got hired, obviously they saw that I didn't have the presence to just say, hey, I'm not willing to accept this offer. Today, it would be a very different story. But at that time, I'm like, I needed a job. And people feel that. People know that, okay, we can play this person. And so the explanation for my hourly rate was, you're not strong enough to lift heavy. Well, I don't think a personal trainer is a good personal trainer because they can lift heavy. But that played with me. It played with my mind enough that I started lifting heavy. I started, I became strong. I could do chin-ups. I started running half marathons. I did a lot of amazing things. This place pushed me to my absolute limits. But what I didn't know at that time, that my capacity couldn't hold those big things that I was doing at that time. Neither could hold my my body. I had a lot of body mechanical issues. I just didn't know about it because I had good form, I had good flexibility, mobility, but there was a very, very deep layer that couldn't be detected by the assessment tools that we had at that time. And that's where my trauma-informed piece is going to come in at some point. And so I started there in 2012, and I started to feel by 2015, 2016 that I'm not happy in this marriage. I'm bringing up issues that I want to work on this. I want to be happier. I want to work, and he just brushed it off. He said that we don't have an issue. You do have an issue. And that's very much of a narcissistic trait. And I'm not taking this lightly because I did a lot of research. However, I wasn't aware of these things at that time. And I felt really unheard. I felt unseen, that this person who's supposedly the love of my life, who I've been with for 8-9 years, he doesn't want to work at this. And I'm the kind of person who makes it work no matter what. It showed in my fitness career and in my personal trainer career too. But I never learned to say, I'm not doing this anymore. I've had enough. Because the old pattern, you gotta make it work. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Yes. And so 2016, I left him. That was the scariest thing I've ever done. By that time, I was Canadian. I was really proud of it. He threw it in my face that once I got my Canadian citizenship, I didn't need him anymore. But that wasn't the truth. That was the point that I just couldn't do it anymore. And just because I was Canadian, it didn't mean I felt safe. It was really hard to start all over. And after starting all over, I started acting out again. Just like in my previous relationship, my ex-husband, I never cheated on him. I learned that this is not okay. However, I looked at it, looking at certain things online counts as cheating in my books. And if it's done secretly. And so that's when I went down the rabbit hole big time. I was looking for validation on the outside. I was looking for, I started working out really hard to look good, to be accepted. I love my job. I loved going to work. I was living, breathing that place. But it broke me because I was doing so much for this place, and I started to feel unappreciated. We have a saying in Hungarian, you give your pinky finger and they want your whole arm. And they learned that, well, Gabby is going to do it. We can throw it at her and she'll do it. And I got promoted 2 times. I became the event manager once and then the product manager, which was really amazing. It gave me more work, more money, and all of a sudden that was taken away from me, saying someone else wanted that job, which wasn't true. It was a lie. Later on, I learned. But again, I make it work. and I didn't give up. And so my body started to give up on me in 2018 after it was an abuse, I let men take an advantage of me, because it's a funny thing. I was being the good girl by doing naughty stuff with men, because I didn't say no to them, because I conformed. Because, well, if I make them happy, that's what I need to do. That's what I
Mm,
learned
mm,
growing up.
mm,
I never thought about my autonomy, that this is a violation of my own, my own body. Or and So I was still not aware of this whole pattern, and all I wanted to be in a lovey-dovey relationship. And I met my boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, and it was a hurricane. It was amazing. It was just wow, just everything that I wanted. He read my mind. He was the emotional charge, the attraction between us was undeniable. It was crazy, and that gave me the confidence to give up to give up my job and start all over again. There were red flags at the beginning of the relationship. Again, I gladly ignored them, because I wanted to believe in this person and trust this person rather than trusting my own body. And at that time, I was already, you know, working on mindfulness and inner growth, but I I didn't have the peace that I have now. And we moved in 2020 before COVID. I couldn't work. I had a couple of personal training clients on the side. He could keep working, which was really helpful. And by then, I knew that he lied to me about, again, online explicit content, exchanging with women, drug addiction. And I learned about all of that, and I stayed with him, and I trusted him. And so he helped a ton the first year of COVID. He helped with rent. He paid most of it. He helped with a lot of things. It looked like he turned around, and this is a great relationship. And until I still had a couple of side jobs, and as a personal trainer, and I started working with a somatic therapist who triggered in a positive way my curiosity about trauma informed personal training, which was it's amazing. And 2021, I became pregnant, and that's when it became really clear that this person is not supporting me, and he's too scared of his own family. What if they figured out that I'm pregnant? And what if they figured out that he doesn't want this pregnancy? And all I had one person here who I could rely on. It was my therapist. My friends back home could help me from distance, but that's not the same.
mm,
And I felt so alone. And I went through the whole abortion by myself. And again, I stayed with him. And because I loved him, because he proved the first few months of our relationship, he proved that he's a good person. He made me believe, not proved, he made me believe he was a good person. And then I started to learn that maybe he's not. But this my pregnancy really taught me to be kinder to myself, to put myself first. And I really, I did my due diligence to do this, that if an abortion can be graceful, it was, I I did it gracefully, and it wasn't easy, even though I never wanted to have kids. And fast forward a year later, I started to put the pieces together. I started to see that throughout my own inner work with somatics, I started to gain autonomy, the freedom of choice, saying no more often, and saying no to his childish behavior. That, an almost 40-year-old shouldn't be throwing tantrums. We could talk about it. But again, when problems started to arise, I realized he's not there to be an equal partner. And once the narcissism piece came in again, I started to do a lot of research on it. And it became really clear that he is one of them, just like my ex-husband. And that gave me, it was painful, but it gave me the empowerment that I can say I can break off this relationship. And while this was happening, I was running a business and creating the life that I want to live and help people to be trauma informed and look at fitness a different way, look at movement in a healing way, and make my clients feel seen and heard through safe movement, because that was the missing piece for myself for a long time.
Wow, that's so beautiful. My
Yeah.
Gabby, I know, can you believe our time is up?
I know. I've been looking at it. I'm making sure that, oh my God, I have to stay within. Yes. Thank you
Wow.
for.
I'm going to ask you one more question, but I quickly need to play our sponsor's video. And Natalie, she's going to help me with the book compilation. So I am going to play her. Then I'm going to ask you a last comment, and then I will play you my beautiful song I've written, but I have somebody now composing the song for me. So I don't know when that will be ready, but I have somebody that I've read the song that's coming out of my heart for you, for being a soul of a diamond. But first of all, let me play Natalie's video.
Hi there. My name is Natalie McQueen. I'm the founder of Gifts of Legacy. I am a book publisher and a legacy designer. I am thrilled to introduce my talking journal. This unique journal features recorded messages from 100 trailblazing contributors that we call our masters and mavens. Imagine a journal that you can hold in your hands and get daily prompts of inspiration from these mentor experts. I invite you to be one of our masters and mavens in our first edition on gratitude for $49. This is a low-cost, high-impact alternative to traditional publishing. I cannot wait to hear your inspirational message.
Thank you, my beautiful Natalie. So, my beautiful Gabby, what is there one message that you can give to anyone that is watching the show today?
Put themselves first, and don't be scared to say no if something feels weird. And if the body says no, trust it. You'll
Beautiful.
always be the most important person in your life.
I love it. We've got a few seconds left, so here is my beautiful song for you.
Moments of moving from here to there between the star and the moon's soft glare capture a glimpse of light so rare, radiant and shining, our hearts declare for the world to see in love's grand affair. Moments of our lives that are filled with laughter keep us going, hearts thrilled, capture the essence of who we are in the spirit of a child like a shooting star. Moments to share our true stories so bright, not only for the world to heal, take flight, but to remind us how amazing we are, forever moving forward.
So I know I only played a little bit piece for you. So my beautiful Gabby, I want to say thank you for giving us your story. Thank you for being inspiration for me as well. Part of your story will be in the Diamond Moment magazine, and then we will definitely in April start to look at to complete the book with 21 beautiful stories in there, and then you must please pray or hold thumbs for me. That's what we say, hold thumbs for me. We say like this. Because I am looking for a sponsor to come and do your life story in a documentary. So, yes, that is my big dream. And I'm just going to give it over to God, and He will do the movement and put the right people in my way. My beautiful Gabby, have a beautiful day, and thank you so much for your heart. I love you. Mwah.